tuende.
Okay. We're seated here as members of the Civil Society Organizations Reference Group in Arusha, where we had come to attend the African Grantmakers Network meeting 2015. But we felt it was important to take a break from the meeting to address an important and pertinent issue, something we are very concerned about, released by the NGO Board last week. So this is our right of reply. This is a joint statement of the Civil Society Organizations Reference Group, CSORG, Interreligious Council of Kenya, and the National Council of Non-Governmental Organizations in Kenya on the proposed amendments to the PBO Act 2013. As we sit here, we are perturbed by a statement released by the NGO's Coordination Board to the media to the effect that jointly with the Ministry of Devolution and Planning, the board has submitted proposed amendments to the PBO Act to the Kenyan National Assembly. Equally disturbing is the claim in the statement that the task force on the proposed amendments to the PBO Act recommended that the law be amended before its operationalization. This is based on a report that we are yet to see, that is yet to be made public over 1 month since it was handed over to the Ministry of Devolution and Planning. We wish therefore to state that the overarching recommendation of the task force, as indeed the overwhelming views collected from stakeholders and the general public, is that the 2013 Act be implemented without further delay, considering that it was debated, approved, and enacted into law by the retired President Mwai Kibaki on January 14, 2013. Indeed, in all the public hearings that the task force conducted throughout the country, all the presentations and memoranda submitted by the various stakeholders were unanimous that only immediate commencement implementation of the Act will help consolidate the gains that Kenyans have made in the exercise of their constitutionally protected rights and freedoms of expression, association, and participation in the management of public affairs. Not only did we have representation to the task force, we as the CSO reference group attended and documented on video and audio all the regional and stakeholders meetings, with the exception of the meeting with the members of parliament. We have developed a shadow report based on this documentary evidence, and our report demonstrates an overwhelming majority of Kenyans asking for the commencement of the Act without any amendments. It is quite telling that while the NGO Coordination Board went out of its way to enumerate some of the organizations represented in the task force on the PBO Act, the Executive Director of the NGO Coordination Board, Fazul Mohammed, found it convenient not to point out that he too, who was a member of the task force, and they were represented twice, there were two representatives from the NGO Board on the task force, was a representative of the board on the task force as an interested party, and as such does not have moral ground to spearhead implementation of the Act that has unnecessarily been delayed for more than 2 years. One of the cardinal values and principles of governance articulated in Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, that binds all state organs, including state and public officers, of who the Cabinet Secretary for Devolution and Planning, Ms. Waiguru, and the NGO Coordination Board Executive Director, Fazul Mohammed, are an integral part, is accountability. Despite the clarity of such constitutional ethos of governance, the Cabinet Secretary and the NGO Coordination Board ED have again chosen not to be guided by the obviously compelling rights of the public whose resources were spent on the task force to make the report public, in complete and arrogant defiance of Article 35 on the right of the public and stakeholders to information.
The CSO Reference Group, the Interreligious Council of Kenya, and the NGO Council wish to point out that right from the time of their appointment, the Cabinet Secretary for Devolution and Planning and the Executive Director of the NGO Coordination Board have acted with such impunity against the civil society as though they are above the law, including the supreme law of the land. A case in point is the obtaining situation of the NGO's Coordination Board, where the term of all the directors, save for that of the Executive Director, expired on March 15th. Yet Fazul Mohammed has the audacity to claim that the board reviewed the task force and recommended and has since forwarded the proposed amendments to the Attorney General and the Clerk of the National Assembly for inclusion into the Miscellaneous Amendments Bill of 2015. Mr. Mohammed owes the public an explanation as to who else other than himself sat in the board that reviewed the task force report and its recommendations and forwarded the proposed amendments to the Attorney General and the Clerk of the National Assembly for inclusion into the Miscellaneous Amendments Bill. His eloquence when deregistering NGOs for not abiding by due process is not matched by due diligence when he purports to be executing decisions of the board that does not exist. It is the position of the CSO Reference Group, the Interreligious Council, and the NGO Council that any decisions that the NGO Coordination Board has made after the expiry of the term of the board, including the alleged deregistration of some NGOs, are null and void, as it is only the board that is mandated by the law to make public policy decisions. The letter and spirit of the NGO Coordination Board Act, Coordination Act of 1990 that established the NGO Coordination Board did not envisage a situation now at the board where one man sits with the secretariat and claims that whatever decision is made at such staff meetings is a decision of the board. There cannot be a board without directors, and Fazul Muhammad should be aware that whatever decisions he claims to have made and have been made by the board are challengeable in court. We, the CSO Reference Group, the Interreligious Council, and the NGO Council wish to reiterate our demand that the Cabinet Secretary for Devolution and Planning comes out of her self-constructed cocoon and makes the report of the task force on the proposed amendments to the PBO Act public. It is only through the immediate commencement of the Public Benefit Organizations Act, without unwarranted state-instigated amendments, that the civil society can consolidate the gains and deepen its collaboration and respectful partnership with the government in serving the public. Immediate implementation of the law will also go a long way in unshackling the NGO Coordination Board from the current shenanigans and the one-man show that it has become after the expiry of the term of its previous board of directors. Thank you.
So.